Richard, Cheryl, Frank, Dwayne, Olive, and Grandpa are never going to be winners. In varying degrees, they've all been dealt a bad hand. So they only have one choice in order to make their lives a little less miserable. Except that they're all just a bunch of losers and dance. This is Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to say anything more. Once I know I made this joke in the last episode, but I'll just do it again.
I was gonna say, I was like, oh, you're just repeating. We're repeating bits around here, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm doing that. Thank you guys for listening. This is where we wrap it up. The remaining hour and a half of this episode is going to be silence, and then maybe occasionally I'll add in a little.
Yeah. So I guess usually, guys, half an hour before we do the show, Chris likes to do or we both do icebreakers, just talk about our day or just talk about whatever we want to talk about to warm ourselves up. And Chris texted me that he didn't want to do any of that shit. So if this podcast is worse for it, you know who to blame.
Also, for the record, guys, just to kind of fire back at Altaf hates the icebreaker segment. He is so eager to start recording whenever we start doing the icebreaker. So just know, if there's really anyone to blame.
It's very true.
As soon as we hop on the call, we're like, hey, how's it going? He's always kind of looking around at the lights and the camera. He's like, are you ready? He doesn't make eye contact with me when he asks if I'm ready.
This answer is going to suck, but in hindsight, I always appreciate them. But I know that answer.
I know.
Yeah. That answer sucked. But today you were just like, none of that.
Well, we already had a 45-minute phone call earlier that day. So in my head, I was like, we already talked a lot. I don't think we really need to break any ice. We already kind of are there.
Also, I just want to say before I introduce this podcast, I wanted to include this in the What Art Moved Us This Week section, but I'll just say it now. Chris has new hair.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, wait, did you say that this is going to be the art that moved you? I just processed that part. What the fuck off?
I was like, are you just flying by that joke? What's happening?
But I did get a major haircut. There really wasn't a compelling or a specific trigger for it. I just sort of felt like it, and probably within a span of 3 or 4 days, I just went for it.
How long have you been growing out that hair?
Probably a solid 1.5 2 years.
Chris is going to be putting that out there on our merch store, so feel free to check that out. So welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about how Little Miss Sunshine changed us. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you like to listen to our podcast, then know that you can check us out and look at Chris's beautiful hair on YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
And we do have a Patreon, everyone. If anyone likes the show and wants to support us, you can go to patreon.com/moviesthatchangedus, where you can get access to early podcasts, also ad-free podcasts, along with our exclusive bonus show called Movies That Played Us, where Altaf and I make custom-made games for each other. We did before Guess the Movie Explosion, Guess the Movie Shoes, last go-around, and then we also have done Guess the Movie Beard. This go-around, I made a game for Altaf. Or, let's be real, I haven't made it yet, but I know what the subject will be, but we're shooting these out of chronological order. The game I will make for you, Altaf, is Guess the Movie Hands.
Oh, hell yeah.
So some might be obvious, some might not be so obvious as games go. So if you want to see that episode, go hop on over to our Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about fingers. Anyways,
I hated that
sentence. Before we talk about the movie, in each episode, we like to ask each other. I love
how you abandoned that bit immediately as soon as you started it. As soon as you said that, you quickly moved on.
We like to ask each other what piece of art moved us that week. So, Chris, what's a piece of art that moved you this week?
Well, I just went to the Crocker Art Museum. They're holding an event called Crocker Con. And basically, they had local artists for comic books and stuff come in and sell their stuff. So there are artists selling stickers, actual paintings and cutouts and stuff like that, along with their own personal comic books. So I got to meet some artists, and there were cosplayers all over. I bought myself a little RoboCop drawing. I'll show it to the camera in a second. I'll show it to you, Altaf. It's a drawing of a RoboCop. I love it. I'll show it to you, Altaf, because Altaf's looking from a different angle.
Yeah, no, I remember you sent me a text of that yesterday. It looks so sick.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the art that moved me. It was a really wholesome event. It was family friendly. It was free. There were people walking around like fully in Star Wars getups, like hardcore cosplayers and clone trooper armor. There was like an Emperor Palpatine scurrying around. It was cool.
Was there a teacher that was super paranoid about fairies?
What?
I mean, you were a
Oh,
Crocker.
are you trying? Oh, Crocker. Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're a Crocker con. So I'm like, was there a teacher running around just being like spazzing out?
I wish we had like, like a soundbite player. I feel like that would have been a great soundbite, like wah wah, kind of thing.
Or uproarious applause, like just like people losing their goddamn minds.
Yeah, just like, oh my god, that was the best joke I've ever heard.
You did it again, Altaf. Saving this podcast. Chris and I just like to make each other laugh one podcast at a time.
Oh god. Okay, why'd you put that in my head? All right. Well, I was about to transition into what art moved you this week, Altaf.
I think you know the answer. During work, one day last week, this was actually the day that the Jimmy Kimmel suspension news came out, where the ABC was going to take his show off the air. And actually, as of now, like as we're recording this, it was just announced that he's coming back, which is exciting. It's very relieving. Some piece of good news, god damn it. But that day I was feeling really anxious for all the right reasons, feeling like free speech was being impended upon and feeling like the world was crumbling around us even more so. And I decided during work, I usually listen to podcasts and I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to listen to some more music, and System of a Down felt perfect just because it felt perfect for the time we're living in, right? And I had listened to some System of a Down through Chris as proxy. And I was like, I listened to Chop Suey and some of Toxicity, but I was like, let me listen to an album. So I listened to all of Toxicity. I'm like, oh, goddamn, what a fucking masterpiece. And I'm sending Chris live updates of this. I asked Chris, what's another album I should listen to? And he was like, oh, check out Mesmerize. And I checked out Mesmerize, and the piece of art that I really want to hone in on is I listened to Violent Pornography for the first time, and the whole album Mesmerize I liked a lot. I actually kind of like it a little bit more than Toxicity, and I know Chris agrees with me. But Violent Pornography might be one of my favorite songs ever. Like, just probably a top 5 favorite song. Because, first of all, it sounds so cinematic, which is obviously...
You mean like the sound of the song, right?
Yeah, the sound of the song is so cinematic, in my opinion.
For like a split second, I was putting myself in the shoes of someone who's never heard that song or hasn't had a chance to check out System of a Down. So you're like, Violent Pornography sounds so cinematic. So my brain just started laughing for a second.
Oh, sure.
How that sounds from someone who doesn't listen to System.
I didn't even consider that. Yeah, you're right. No, but the sound of it is so cinematic. And then it's like nothing I've heard before. I've never gone down a System of a Down rabbit hole, but I listened to that specific song like 4 times that day. And then I was like, Chris, what's another song? And he was like, listen to Hypnotize. And I what's another album? I asked Chris. And he's like, listen to Hypnotize. I listened to all of Hypnotize. And then I listened to all of Steal This Album. I listened to 4 albums from System of a Down that day and became truly obsessed. And I'm late to the party, but goddamn, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, oh, 100%, dude. I'm glad you're here too. I will say, I didn't know that was your first time listening to all of Toxicity, though. I thought you listened to that album before.
You know what I did? It was, I guess, I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah, I did listen to that whole album before. For some reason, it just hit me harder this time.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, just making sure I was listening correctly. But, yeah, man, I mean... God bless System of a Down. I don't think they have a single bad song, and they're one of the only like new metal bands that aged well, that weren't part of like, it's just one of those days, you know what I'm saying? Or like, oh wow, They really powered through a lot of the stuff that was popular at the time, and they're still relevant today. Like they still have a very alive and well fan base of even previous generation alpha and zoomers that love them too. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and like I became obsessed with Surge. I started looking him up and everything, and like learning about how much work he's done to bring awareness to the Armenian genocide and preserve that culture in a way, and just the amount of activism that he's done. And then I watched an episode of Parts Unknown where Anthony Bourdain went to Armenia, all because of Surge wanting him to come, and then him and Surge like have conversations together through food. And it's Anthony Bourdain, for people who don't know, is like one of my heroes. I don't say that lightly, but he's straight up like a person I look up to. And just seeing those two talk to each other, I was like, this is a dream, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, those guys they're like I said, you know, there's no sound like System of a Down. You know, they have a specific, not only just their sound, but the quality of their actual songwriting and their lyrics and what they have to say. Like sometimes they'll use absurd imagery in their lyrics, but it evokes a feeling. There's always an intention behind it. You know, it's not just like chaos for the sake of chaos. There's always like a broad feeling that it gives you. That's really cool.
Hey man, I just wondered, did you hear me rocking out? Damn it!
Do you mean
follow? Like,
hey man,
follow
look at
me
me rocking out?
God damn it! You didn't follow. I was hoping you would do.
You got the lyrics wrong. That's why I laughed.
All right, never mind. Let's move on. All right, so this is a big movie that we're doing for Chris and I for a lot of different reasons. We've done a podcast episode on this movie before this podcast was called Movies That Changed Us. It's still on this channel, but it was one of our early podcast episodes we've done. Before we did movie reactions on the Nice Dude Movie Night channel, we used to do movie reviews, like, and different kind of movie reviews, new and old, but they were like 10 minutes long, and we did one on Little Miss Sunshine. We've talked about, this is our third time on camera and mic talking about Little Miss Sunshine, and we're doing it again. God damn it, I don't care, because this movie's very special to us. So Chris, how did Little Miss Sunshine change you?
Well, this is another movie that's been in my general stratosphere since I was a child. I saw this movie in theaters when it came out. I was probably like 11, maybe. And I think I shared this with you, Altaf, and probably on the first podcast we did on this, but we're just going to treat this episode as if you hadn't seen that original podcast, because it was a long time ago and it was low key and, you know. But I remember I was really scared to go into that theater because recently at the time I'd seen Talladega Nights in theaters, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeing that in theaters, but in the trailers, there's a trailer to The Grudge 2. I don't know if you saw Talladega Nights in theaters or if you remember that, but that trailer scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, and I wanted to avoid it like the Black Plague. So when I knew I was going into an R-rated movie in theaters, I was like, oh fuck, there's going to be R-rated trailers. Nothing's safe. So the whole time while the trailers were going, I had to pretend that I had to pee, and I kept trying to leave the theater.
But you didn't want it to seem like you were a wussy, you know?
Well, yeah, even though my parents knew what I was doing, you know, they were saying like, stop, just watch the movie, you know, it's fine. And what was it though? With that being said, once the movie started, I loved it, and it had, still to this day, it has a very special bond with me, if that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's always been very close to me, and it's another one of those movies that just feels very timeless and like anything, you know, and I say this a lot on the podcast, so it should just be my branding and catchphrase at this point, but, you know, it does hit as you get older, especially this movie, though, I will say. If there's anything that's qualified to say it, I do feel like it's Little Miss Sunshine. So that's my abridged thoughts on how the movie changed me. But what about you? How did this movie change you?
By the way, I just want to say, when you were saying that, like, I watched Talladega Nights in theaters, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with watching that movie in theaters. It would be funny in an alternate universe to think about you being super against watching comedies in theaters. You were like, comedies are meant to watch at home with no one else.
I hate other people's laughter in a theater. It really messes up the timing of the jokes in the movie.
I waited for Naked Gun to arrive on streaming. I couldn't see that shit in theaters. No. So to answer that question, though, how Little Miss Sunshine changed me. This was like one of those movies, to be honest with you, I had seen, not in theaters, but I had seen when I was fairly young, and I liked it. It didn't really process as like a really good movie until I met you. And I think there are a handful of movies where I think you've made me, like, you've awakened another thing about that movie to me. You're like, I remember when I met you and I saw like your love for Lion King in a way that not many people talk about Lion King. Like, people are always like, Lion King, a classic Disney Renaissance movie. But Chris looks at Lion King like people look at Godfather, you know? And
rightfully so.
And it made me want to rewatch Lion King, and then I have that same appreciation. Little Miss Sunshine is the same thing. And I think it was when I moved to LA and I was getting into screenwriting and I wanted to make movies, Chris would tell me a lot about Little Miss Sunshine and how perfect of a script it is. And we would talk about it together, and then I eventually rewatched it, and I was like, God damn it, you're right. This movie's a masterpiece, but not only that, it's a great script. And then Chris would tell me like, oh yeah, I know you should check out the script. And also there's like a version of the script where like the writer Michael Arndt writes a foreword and he has a great story. And so then I went to this local LA store, I forget its name, where you can like look at scripts and everything. And I looked at the Little Miss Sunshine script and I sat there and I read the whole thing. And so this movie served as a source of inspiration for me. But like Chris says, you know, emotionally, like, of course this movie hits harder as you get older, just because that's what this movie's meant to do. Like, it's meant to like serve you in different stages of your life, in my opinion. Like, I'm sure when I'm 60, I'll watch this movie and still connect with it, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I have a little sister. And if you have a little sister and you're my age, and it's kind of a similar age difference between Paul Dano and Abigail Breslin, this movie's going to mean a lot to you. So it means a lot to me in that sense too. The biggest thing about this movie that really connects with me, Chris, is just self-image stuff. You know, that opening shot is stuff that I think is so hard to do in a movie. And when a filmmaker achieves it, it's almost a miracle, which is in one shot tell you what the entire movie's about. And it's the reflection of this little girl's glasses as she's watching a beauty pageant unfold. And that's the entire movie. It's like, to her, this is everything. To her, this is what she wants to be and what she wants to be seen as.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I also consider this movie a lot about like, kind of the way society measures our self-worth and the way we let society dictate our self-worth too.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense of even just the idea of a beauty pageant speaks for itself. You know what I mean? The idea of people judging you because you go up and act a little cutesy, and you know what I mean? And everyone, all of the characters deal with that in some capacity, you know? And a lot of the messaging behind it is just giving a middle finger, just saying, fuck you. You don't get to decide what makes me happy. I get to decide what makes me happy, and I don't care what you think. You know?
I was thinking about that because, you know, the dad, played by Greg Kinnear, Richard, who plays it brilliantly, is a very unlikable character. But at the core of who he is, he just seems like a very lonely person that hasn't figured out his own shit. And he decides to be a motivational speaker / author because maybe through doing that, in a way, I mean, this is all subtext that I'm reading into, but maybe through doing that, he can make his life seem better than it is. And I was thinking about that. I was just like, you know, there used to be motivational speakers and authors, and there still are, but now it takes shape in podcasts and the manosphere shit of like kind of telling young men how to win at life. And I was like, why is this still going? Like, why is this so timeless? Like, why is it every generation is going to have a version of this, of people talking into a microphone and telling you how to live your life? And if you're not doing this, you're not winning. That's a timeless thing. Winners and losers. That hasn't changed. And I think it's because we're all very lonely. Like, you know, like this is a world, this is very hoity-toity, but none of us can ever figure life out And so we're constantly looking for other people to tell us how to figure life out. And those people don't know shit either, but they're just clouded and they're lying to themselves, That's it.
Yeah, 100%. It's well, and also like, the way, whatever you want to call it, the world, capitalism, people, I don't know. I think this is everywhere, so I'm not going to hone in on anything specific, but I'll just say society, just to kind of keep it broad. But like, I feel like the keys to happiness are always packaged in some sort of way. It's like a contest, winning a contest, getting a book deal, getting a genius grant or whatever, all these certain things that kind of compartmentalize your own achievements and success and your milestones in life. And that's how you're supposed to measure your own worth. Like if you don't get those things, then it means you failed or you're not really, like you wasted your life or your time. When really, like, they sneak a lot of that stuff in throughout the movie too. Even with a lot, like the side characters and stuff, like when they go to the hospital, which we'll get to all that stuff later, but like the lady who's supposed to handle the remains, remember how the doctor calls for her, how he like just shouts her name very like crassly, like
Yeah.
Linda,
Yeah.
It's like society does not give a fuck about you. It's kind of what it's trying to say. No one else really gives a shit about you.
And
Even though they make it seem like they do, but they really don't.
Oh, totally. Like that scene at the hospital starts with the doctor being, the doctor delivering this tragic news. And you've seen this scene a million times in movies. And unfortunately, in real life, we experience this, right? And the moment that is so like that you don't see in movies is right after the doctor talks to the family is like you said, he yells for Linda. And then Linda comes in. And Linda's like, hi, I'm your bereavement liaison, Linda. And Linda has this soft tone. And then she's like, okay, so now you're going to want to fill out these forms. And then slowly Linda's dial turns to be like, stop your shit. You don't have the only dead body in here,
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah, I found a lot of the stuff with the dad at the dining table or the dad in the car extremely moving in ways where it pissed me off, but in ways that was so deeply emotional. I have had people in my life, without getting into detail, that have been like that, which is, listen, you got to be a winner. You're fat, and that's kind of your fault. You got to be a winner. Winners are not fat, And this person didn't say those exact words to me, but that was always the implication, is that I'm failing. And if it's about being fat, it could be about academics. It could be about anything. It's always about you're losing, And this person that told me that had very little self-respect for themselves. And so I think when I watch this movie, I have more empathy for that person. And it's all in that scene when Richard finds out that he's not getting the book deal at the telephone booth. And Alan Arkin delivering a goddamn amazing performance. But Alan Arkin sees that, and he sees his son in grief. And for the first time, he acts like a dad in the movie. And he's like, oh, he's not getting it. Jesus Christ. And Richard gets in the car, and him and Cheryl have had this big argument, and Cheryl does that like mean like stare at him as she gets back in the car, and it's sad, it's depressing, it's tense, and then the dad just walks up to him and tells him that like you tried to build something, and that takes a lot of courage. And he says, "Thank you, Dad." And I immediately flash back to the person that treated me like the way Richard treats Olive. And I was like, oh, that person never had Alan Arkin's character come up to him and say that to him. And
oh yeah, the movie does such a good job at showing an empathetic portrayal of him too, because they could have easily made him cartoonish and annoying. Like a lesser screenwriter would have hated him, right? But it felt like the script loved each of the characters equally in their own ways, and you understand all of their dynamics, and you understand what Richard contributes to the family too. I know he's judgmental and he's nitpicky, but you know that he does he has those moments where he does care about people, and he's like keeping shit together in his own way. And yeah, man. I mean, like you said, when his dad ends up going up to him and telling him like, you attempted something which is more than a lot of people can say. And he says, I include myself in this category. He says, he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I haven't really done shit. He's like, you guys can, I talk a lot of smack, but I haven't tried anything. So he ends up just telling his son that he's proud of him. And it shines an extra light because, like everyone in this whole movie, everyone's trying. And that's what this movie's really honing in on, is that like even if you don't achieve things, it's about trying, which is what's cool. Trying is just as much winning. You know what I mean? And putting yourself out there and being vulnerable.
I mean, it's kind of like what Dwayne says. If I want to fly planes, I'll fly planes. Do what you love, and fuck the rest.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
exactly.
That's it. It's such a simple message that you've heard many times before. But the thing is, like, it's so hard for us to get out of our own ways, and this family is the perfect kind of encapsulation of that. Is all they need to do is accept that they're losers. That's all they need to accept. And if they accept that, they'll just be significantly happier. What's kind of amazing in this movie is that not just that ending dance scene, but throughout the entire movie, the only moments where they actually feel really happy is when they're working together.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's moving that Volkswagen, whether it's carrying the dad's Alan Arkin's body outside the hospital. Because every time they sit back in the car after doing something like that, they're laughing, they're smiling, and they don't realize it, but that's it. That's the fucking sauce in life,
Oh, for sure. Well, and it's not even about conquering those hardships, out of life. It's about like even like you said, those moments when they're all together and they're laughing and having fun, but even like the way, they lean on each other for support too. Like you said, with Alan Arkin, going up to Richard and telling him what he said. But then also when Dwayne, obviously will fully cover that scene, but when he finds out that he can't fly jets and how that happens, that gets him out of it, is his little sister going up to him and just laying on him. The movie's really about, the presence of people you love are really what get you through the hardships in life. It's not about winning. It's not, there's no scene of Dwayne going and doing this flight school and, whatever, right? Deciding he's going to force himself in anyway and yada, yada. Or, Richard going and securing that deal somewhere else. It's about people being there for you when life gets fucking hard. Because the truth is, vast majority of the time, you're going to be helpless to a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Life is going to hurl stuff at you,
Yeah, he had no choice in being colorblind. Like, that's just the hand he was dealt,
Yeah, and it's not fair, but but he might have a closer appreciation for his family, for how they got him through this time. He might come out of it wiser. And they summarize, there's like a lot of philosophical elements which they talk about and touch on throughout, when they touch on like Nietzsche in the beginning, and then towards the end when what was it? When why am I drawing Steve Carell? Wow, I almost forgot Steve Carell's name for a second. When Steve Carell shares, Proust's philosophy on how the best years of his life were his suffering, and how those, like, he wouldn't be where he is today if it wasn't for all of the times he suffered. And so the movie just basically is telling you, like, all the things that you go through and all the hardships and the pain and depression, all that stuff you go through, even if it doesn't amount to the thing you think you want, you might have a greater perspective and a greater wisdom about you because of it,
Sure. Okay.
I love when you do that.
The reason why that conversation at the dock between Paul Dano and Steve Carell works is because the movies earn those moments very well, There are points where you're just really not liking Richard. He's saying things where you're just like, I'm going to punch you in the face. I texted you yesterday, but the moment where he just like literally just tells Frank to shut up.
I know, dude. Isn't it awful?
Well, Frank is explaining to Olive, who orders ice cream a la Modi, very adorably. And Frank is explaining, is like, actually, Olive, a la mode in French means this. And
in the fashion.
In the fashion. Thank you. I forgot what it actually meant for a second. And he goes into like the origins of it. And then Richard, in great physical comedy acted by Richard Kinnear, Greg Kinnear, Richard like flips his phone off. He's like, Frank, shut up.
And then just sells all of that, like, ice cream's going to make you fat.
Yeah, and does like this beauty pageant winner, does she eat ice cream? You know, you think she does, but you want to talk about that ice cream scene for a second, like while we're here?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean that I feel like that's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. You know, whenever I ask people if they've seen Little Miss Sunshine, that scene's usually mentioned somewhere in the conversation. And I think it sticks with a lot of people. And especially like I watched reactions to this movie on YouTube a lot just because I skipped to certain scenes and I like watching reactions sometimes. And this only makes sense, but female reactors, women have very visceral reactions to that. And then the way it pays off to the end of the movie. Like I saw, certain creators like end up in tears at that one moment when she finally talks to Miss California at the end of
Yeah.
it. So it's a powerful scene.
Well,
It's comedic, but it's powerful. It's one of the best, like kind of quick, like combating, Richard's philosophy. Even, Alan Arkin is like, Olive, your dad's an idiot. I like women with meat on her bones. Like immediately you're like, hell yeah, dude.
I know. It's a, and then Olive just being like, hold on, don't finish all of it.
Yeah, don't eat it all. It kind of just blocks it.
Can I?
Which, I mean, as a little sibling myself, as being a person experienced in being the younger one, not even just with siblings, but also with cousins and uncles
Sure.
and all that stuff, there is that feeling of like guarding your fucking food. For some reason, when you're young and have like your kid food, your chicken nugget or your pizza or whatever it is, people feel so entitled to be like, ooh, let me get one of those. Ooh, I remember as a kid, I ate like crazy and I'm like, get away from my food.
Yeah, and to be fair, that habit didn't really leave you, Chris. You still eat like someone's about to steal your food.
And that's exactly, it's burned in my brain now. Now I'm like a human vacuum, for those who don't know. Not to totally derail this conversation, but I eat like unusually fast. I don't know what it is, but
Okay.
I'm a fast eater.
Well, to break down Chris and I's eating habits, Chris eats really fast. And sometimes it is distractingly fast. Like we'll be out having a meal together and I'll be talking to him and then I just have to stop talking because I'm like, this is overtaking anything I'm saying right now. This is like, you are not focused on me. Maybe you're listening, but you need to finish this rap immediately. The funniest thing is when you're eating a burger, man, it like upsets me the way you eat a burger, which is you take a bite, put a little ketchup, take a bite. You were doing it at the Alamo. Like at the Alamo, you're watching the movie and just being like,
Everywhere I do it, yeah. Like if I have like a ketchup packet, I'll typically the way I eat burgers is like a sauce, usually either ketchup or like In-N-Out sauce in one hand, your Thousand Island or something like that, and then the burger in the other, and I put a little dab of the sauce on the bite before I take it. That's just the way I like to do it.
sure.
And
And to, balance the scales a little bit, because I don't want to just talk shit about Chris eating all the time. I am a loud eater. Even when I close my mouth, and I try to make sure I'm not eating with my mouth open, obviously. But even when I'm chewing with my mouth closed, I'm still such a loud eater. And, Chris has gotten a lot of joy with that early on in our friendship. Just silently recording me eating and then sending me the Snapchat later. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, this is probably like a solid 8 years ago or something like that. But when we'd eat across from each other, I would secretly record him and slowly zoom in on him while he was eating. I was a pretty savage friend to have at the time.
I mean, we have great memories of that. So I have no ill will towards you, man.
I will say, I don't think you eat as loud as you used to, though. At least I haven't noticed it recently. Or maybe I'm so used to it, but I don't think I've noticed it in a while.
No, I still do. I know this because my roommate kind of laughed one time when I was eating downstairs, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I still do. I just think
Okay, fair enough.
I think your ears have just gotten used to it.
Maybe so. Do you want to talk about Frank at all?
Okay, yes. Can you cue us into that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting because Frank is kind of like the guest of the family. Like I know he's part of the family because he's an uncle and everything like that, but he's kind of just, it seems like he's just now getting to know the husband and getting to know, Dwayne. Like he could might as well be a first timer visiting.
Well, I mean,
But
I don't. He's probably a first time visiting, but like he feels like he has a relationship with Richard where I'm like, oh, they've had arguments before. Like,
That's true. Yeah, he clearly has a disdain for him, but what was it? He's an important character though because he's the title screen of the movie.
one of the best title screens ever.
Oh yeah, him just sitting there like just sad as hell in the hospital with the 5 o'clock shadow, baggy eyes, and then just overlaid with the text "Little Miss Sunshine," and the word "sunshine's" right across his face. It's fucking genius. It's so good. It's so simple. Once again, like you said, that's another example of the movie telling you everything you need to know. It's like the idea of this world telling you you should be happy and why aren't we? Is kind of what the movie's examining.
Do you remember his not his first line of dialogue, but like one of his first lines?
Are you talking about when Tony Collette hugs him and says, "I'm so glad you're still here"?
And then what
And
does he say in response?
He says, "That makes one of us."
Yeah, that's great. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough.
so what did you want to bring up specifically when talking about Frank? There's a lot to talk about, obviously, but I want to know what you really want to talk about.
I've always appreciated just his little, I think two things. His relationship with the kids, really, each one I kind of want to break down because he has very important exchanges. The obvious one's Dwayne, because him and Dwayne have like a cool, they're both clearly the smart ones in the family, But then he also has some really nice interactions with Olive, too.
Yeah, you want to talk about that dinner table scene where Olive like is asking him like, why did you want to kill yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. This is another example of like watching that scene as an adult. I'm like kind of with Richard on that one. I'm like, no, don't tell the 7-year-old about this, that they have like a suicidal person in their home. In real life, in the movie, it's a great scene, but there's that part of me now that kind of goes off of like, oh, I wouldn't talk about that right after it happens.
But I mean, I also wonder if that's coming from a place of us being, I don't know what the right thing to do. I'm not a parent, but you can only like guess. And I'm kind of with you on that though. I don't think I would be fully comfortable opening that up to my 8-year-old daughter, but who knows?
Yeah,
but go ahead. You describe the scene. You're better at this than I am.
But yeah, basically, they're all getting ready for dinner, and Olive just notices the bandages on his arm and just says, "What happened to your arm?" And he first kind of writes it up, like, "I had a little accident, but I'm okay." And they have a couple exchanges, and then she follows up with it, like, "What happened at the accident?" And they try to distract her, but and then they kind of end up deciding to just tell her what happened. And Tony Collette just says it, like, he tried to kill himself. And it's a cool way of showing exposition because it's like a funny scene at the same time.
Yeah.
Because of like kind of the weird back and forth of her asking. So that's when you decide, he's like, no, actually, like it gets worse.
It makes me think of how Tarantino doles out exposition in Inglourious Bastards in the opening like 15 minutes. Where Hans Landa is asking the French guy, "What rumors have you heard about me?" Like, what are the...
Exactly.
And then that guy kind of being like, "Oh, they call you this, and they call you this, and this is what you've done." Same thing with this movie, but it's an 8-year-old kid asking Frank. Yeah.
Yeah, and it adds to the dynamic for everyone too, because Richard is the one saying like he did it because he is a sick man. He's sick in the head. Olive, you get to know literally all of them at the same time. All of them,
dude, very good.
You like that one?
My favorite is my favorite interaction is just you killed yourself because of a boy.
You were in love with a boy?
Oh, you were in. That's what it was. You're in love with a boy. And he was like, yes. And she was like, that's silly. And he's like, it was very silly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's kind of something that shows, that's the only thing I think that shows like the cracks in terms of the movie's age. The idea of her having no concept of or understanding of how that, like I've never heard of a guy being in love with another guy kind of thing.
Oh,
that's
yes.
what I will say. I think like nowadays most kids have at least are aware of that sort of thing, But again, either way, we don't have to fully get into that. It was just something that I just observed. But yeah, so and yeah, you learn how fucked over he was, that he had a falling out and a love affair, and then also his academic life fell apart and he was kicked out of his home. It's like, not like in a bad way, I understand, but like in a just like, oh fuck, like I feel for that guy, he needs some love.
I think what's key about that scene to me though, and the reason I really wanted to talk about it, is the line of, "So that's when I tried to kill myself and I failed at that too." Yeah. Which is a very funny line delivered brilliantly with Steve Carell, he's probably the only person that could deliver a line like that and still make you laugh, because of the way he says it in that deadpan nature. but I think it kind of sets the tone of like, man, everyone in this house is just they all have the lowest opinion of themselves. Even Richard. Like even Richard does, but he's like masking it with all this winning and losing bullshit. But he like those moments where he's in the kitchen by himself, like trying to get a hold of Stan Grossman are like the most vulnerable moments you could see. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you really feel his desperation, you know. And I also love towards, not to bounce everywhere, but towards the end of the movie when he just doesn't care anymore about that facade he's putting up when they're not letting them enter the beauty pageant because they're there 4 minutes late. How he just gets down on his knees and just begs straight up, like, I don't care how I look right now or if I'm trying, you know, I'm no longer the man in charge. Like, please, for the love of God, let us in, you know.
So you wanted to talk about Frank and Olive. You want to talk a little bit about Frank and Dwayne, or when I look at Dwayne, I see the Chris that I met 7 years ago.
I know.
Not personality wise, but visually. Chris, for those of you guys who don't know, which are most of you listening and watching, Chris used to have this like white shirt, shaggy hair look to him. Actually, when I met him, he kind of had short hair. It was when he was younger and I saw pictures of him, he had shaggy hair. And it's just really funny to watch this movie and be like, oh, that kind of looks like Chris.
Well, I told you that was the thing, right? I think I mentioned in the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
But we studied this movie in film school, and right when it shows that first shot of him doing his bench press, one of my classmates immediately is like, there's Chris. The whole class burst out laughing. Like immediately it was like the thing. But I mean, you know, I get it. Paul Dano and I have mildly similar face shapes, you know, similar vibes probably too. I get it.
Dwayne has that feeling that I'm sure we've all felt in some level, especially just being a teenager, you know. I just want to get the fuck out of here. And everyone has a different relationship with their family, but we've all had that feeling of I need to get the fuck out of here. Look, this is driving me crazy. So it's obviously super resonant, and I think that's what makes like Frank and Dwight such a Frank
Dwayne.
and Dwight. Wow, the Steve Carell thing really got to me. The Frank and Dwayne thing such a great pairing because Frank wanted to get the fuck out of life and Dwayne wants to get the fuck out of this house.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I like that. Was that a little plan in your head?
No, it just came to me, and I was proud of it too.
That's pretty cool, man.
Thanks, man.
I like that.
I appreciate
that's a genuine compliment. And even if it was planned in your head, I don't care. I was just curious.
I appreciate that. You know, we've been podcasting for a while, so I like to hope that every now and then I'll have those moments.
Well, yeah, for listeners, you know, I talk to Altaf off mic all the time, you know, and I can always, like, I think both of us can pick up when we don't talk how we normally talk. And so sometimes on the show, I'll be like, hang on, you used a word you don't use. Like, or you used a phrase you don't use.
Yeah, I used professorial over the phone today, and Chris was genuinely impressed. And I could tell he was impressed because he was like, oh, that's a good word, by the way. Because sometimes when I use a word and he can catch that I'm trying, he'll be like, you've never said totemic before. What is that? Like,
you know, but you know, it's like, you know, like a friend trying something out, you know, trying on a new accessory or a new shirt or new words, you know, it happens.
how were you as a teenager? Were you like, did you feel similar towards Dwayne? I mean, we both have had aspirations of like living by ourselves and kind of doing something and having a passion. I mean, did you kind of feel that way of like, I need to get the hell out of here? Or was it a little bit different for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wasn't really brooding like Dwayne was. I was a really giggly, like ADHD, spazzy kid. But I was still spicy sometimes. You know what I mean? I was still angsty. I was very, especially when I was like closer to like 17 territory, I was very much a smartass and was very sarcastic.
Yeah.
And was very like, you know, I incited debates with people just so I can feel myself winning a debate. And I'm saying this from a perspective of like, fuck that kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I've learned from that sort of thing.
I do remember you telling me that when you were younger, you used to like even watch like debates a lot, like just generally, because you wanted to learn how to debate. And you were also like, you've always been someone that was like, you weren't reading Nietzsche, but you were like, you know, you were like listening to philosophers. You were just like, from what you've told me about like when you were younger, you were always trying to like consume stuff that was above your age range. Like reading Clockwork Orange at 13, is like a specific type of kid, so I think like you and Dwayne have a lot of similarities outside of just general personality.
Yeah, maybe to an extent, for sure. I definitely had aspirations of moving out of the town I was in, for sure, but not from a place of like, I hate this place, I want to get away. It's more like I had dreams and I knew I had to go there to achieve them. You know, so I didn't really have that type of angst growing up. You know,
I did, to a sense. I love my family, um, and so I have nothing against them, obviously. But I did have this feeling of like, I need to leave. I need to leave. And I wanted to pursue filmmaking, but outside of that, I was like, I need to get out. Like, I think I don't think I know myself, and I didn't think that exactly, but like looking in hindsight, I'm like, until I moved to LA, I didn't feel like I really found myself, which is insane to think about. Like, I went to college where I felt like I knew who I was. I was in high school where I thought I knew who I was very naively, but it really wasn't until I moved to LA and I learned things about myself that I couldn't have imagined, So it is like looking at Dwayne in this movie, this guy thinks that he has it figured out. Like, he's like, I'm just, until I get accepted to this, I'm not going to talk. And when I get accepted, I'm going to fucking leave and fly planes. Like, that's what my life is. And that's kind of the, like, that's kind of the thought process we have at that age of just like, I just need to do this, this, and this. And you just think naively that your life is going to play out like a set of dominoes, and it does not. And that fucks you up for a little bit. It definitely fucked me up when I moved here, because I didn't just get like accepted into Sundance and get to be a filmmaker that like I thought I was going to be,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think, and I think this is universal. I think a lot of people think they know who they are when they're young and slowly figure out that they don't, and then kind of truly find themselves, at least on paper. That's what everyone kind of hopes for, you know? But do you think like what was it about LA for you where you were kind of snap things into place for you? Like, what was different about that than college?
I think moving away from everything I knew and coming here not knowing anyone forced me to kind of like recognize the flaws within myself that I wasn't really forced to recognize, which is, oh shit, I don't know how to be an adult. I don't know how to cook. I have never been around people that are kind of adults, even though everyone's figuring their shit out, but they're more adult than me, at least the way I thought about what adults are, I guess. And I was kind of realizing, oh shit, like even though I thought I'm going to move to LA, I'm going to work really hard and become a filmmaker, I don't know anything. Like, I am a blank slate and I'm 22 and I have a lot of time, but goddamn, I didn't know this much.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Just curious, because I think part of a lot of what this movie is about that kind of, like you said, figuring yourself out in a way that goes beyond your material goals, because all these, we talked about it already, but and even in previous podcasts, like both of our friggin' recordings of it, but this is a movie where all of the characters catastrophically fail in some sort of way. None of them get what they actually want, but somehow find what they need and find themselves in the process and find happiness and love and longing and still are content with the way things are. And that's hard to pull off in a movie, and still have it feel bittersweet at the end. Or not even really bittersweet, just sweet.
Sweet.
At the end.
It's just sweet.
I think I talked about this in the Harold and Maude podcast, and I've talked about this in other podcasts we've done. But this is another movie, I don't know what name to call it, and I think I need to find a name for it. But there are some movies that can have like equal happiness and ridiculousness and humor and comedy as much as it does in the melancholy and the sad and the dark. when it has like the full kind of scale of emotions. When they talk about like Lion King's one of the examples. That movie can make me laugh as much as it can make me cry.
Yeah.
And then we think of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's packed with weird shit and butt plugs and all the stuff, but also makes you want to call your mom at the end of it. And so this is another movie that has that. It has them hiding their grandpa's corpse in the trunk in the most wild scenes ever, but also has some of the heaviest and most moving scenes at the same time. I think we need to find a name for these types of movies, but I love them, and I just wanted to show my appreciation for that.
Dude, I agree. I was thinking about just the magic of movies while I was watching this movie, which is it sounds very like pretentious, but
I just want to absorb that for a second. I was thinking of the magic of movies while I was watching this.
Listen, when I said it, I knew how it sounded, and I was like, we're just going to power through this, where I'm going to take this, I am going to own this right now. But I really was. Because if you don't put yourself in the shoes of someone who's never seen this movie, they go into this movie not knowing any of these people. By the end of it, you will die for these people, Mm-hmm. And that's like, come on, that's like that's cinema, baby. That's like why movies exist. You go in not knowing this world, not knowing these characters, and by the end of it, you love them so fucking much. And that, like, when the family drives away with the car honking, I'm like, I love you guys. I hope you're going to be okay. And I think you are, but I really hope you're going to be okay. And it's just like why I love movies. And so to your point of like, those kind of movies are so powerful, I think, because of that feeling of like, we're going to introduce you to these characters. They're going to feel so lived in and fully realized. And at the end of it, you're going to be sad to see them go, but you're going to be happy for them as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's what Lion King is as well. That's why we can't let go of Lion King, and we need to constantly be remaking it.
Yeah, it's like, Lion King should be like James Bond movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see new renditions, but except instead they force James Earl Jones back into it.
No, come on. We need to get Henry Cavill as Mufasa. Let's do it. Like,
Wait,
how like
an actual fan cast?
No, I'm just saying how people talk about James Bond. Now I'm talking about like how people talk about James Bond, and they're always like, it's the most obvious choices ever. Come on, get Henry Cavill. Wouldn't that be? Or who should play Joker? Willem Dafoe. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, you should.
I remember it was like that for Last of Us before they officially cast Pedro Pascal. Everyone was saying Hugh Jackman, and I was like, he already did it. Logan came out. It's the same thing.
Okay. Just to touch on it for a second. I know I can bring this up in Shouties. Do you want to talk about, I guess the last thing, I mean, there's plenty of things we can touch on, and please feel free to jump in. Last thing I really want to talk about before we get to the dance sequence is the Alan Arkin scene with Olive at the hotel.
Oh yeah, 100%. I got something to share about this one.
Olive's really nervous, and she decides to stay in with Grandpa because they can practice the routine, which is being teased throughout the movie, and you don't know what the routine is. And you see a little glimpse of it when they're doing these weird faces. And he tucks her in, and she more or less asks him, "Am I pretty enough?"
Or do you think I'm pretty?
Do you think I'm pretty? And he's like, what kind? I'm not going to quote it exactly, so just please bear with me, everyone. But he's basically like, what are you talking about? And she's kind of just nervous because she even says like, Daddy doesn't like losers, And the way Abigail Breslin says it, the way she cries, I think of my sister immediately. Like and not that my sister has had that issue or whatever with her dad or anything. I'm not implying that. I'm just saying like,
no, but when you see like a child like insecure and nervous and suffering, and you see the innocence there, I get it.
Yeah, and I see that, and it makes me emotional, but that you can in that scene feel the pressure she has on her.
Yeah.
Which is like, I just want to win. It's just so like everyone will be happy that I won. And I find that moving not only from a kid's perspective, how heartbreaking that is, and what he says afterwards, which is like you're beautiful, and not just because of your brains and your personality. It's because of you are how you look inside and out, like your beauty inside and out, right? And obviously that scene is moving because you're watching it through a kid's perspective, and how heartbreaking it is and how heartwarming it is with the grandpa telling that to his granddaughter. It's also moving because I'm a fucking 29-year-old man, and I need to hear that sometimes. I feel the pressure of like being a loser. And a lot of that is due to kind of social media, man. A lot of that is due to I have a light podcast addiction. Like, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of the manosphere shit, but you know, when you listen to a lot of podcasts in general, you're listening to people that are following their dreams and have won, in a sense, especially if you're listening to popular podcasts, and that makes you jealous and that makes you want to strive for more. And and it puts this pressure on you that Olive has from her dad of like, I just want to win. I want to win something. Whether that be with women, whether that be in life. And sometimes you just need to hear that you're okay, you know? There's so much there, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that it's not even like her fear of losing for herself, or like, I just want to win because I care about it. She says dad hates losers. You know what I mean? Like, it's only because of she just wants her family's approval. You know what I mean? And that's what's interesting about it, is that that's a very honest perception. Like, probably to her, she doesn't really care that much. She just likes having tried, you know, like anyone should. You know, she likes like just putting herself out there and competing, but she doesn't really care that much about the fact that, you know, she wins or loses. It's really just what, you know, how her family is going to react on the other side of it.
We just want our dads to be proud of us. No matter what kind of dad you have, whether he's Richard or he's a saint. If he's a saint, it's probably worse because you need to live up to that. You want to earn his respect because he's such a respectful person, right? So it's like
that's what Lion King's all about.
Yeah, like the burden of having Mufasa as a dad is just as heavy as the burden of having a bad dad, you know?
Yeah.
And so at the core of it, that is it. We just want our dads to like us, and you know, it's very moving.
Yeah. And the thing I was going to get at, you know, when I had a moment with this scene, I wept. Like, I legit like cried. It was weird. I don't know. I think I know why, you know, and I can't really reveal it publicly necessarily, but I guess I'll be vague and you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But I think like we're in the works of some stuff that we can't talk about yet, you know, but it kind of, being, again, trying to be vague, it took me back to a place that I haven't been to in a long time, you know? And I think during that time, a lot of my own self-worth was kind of being, you know, whether it's picked apart by someone close to me at the time, someone who's very close to me, and very much, without directly saying it, made me feel like a loser at all times. It kind of thrived off of that, you know? Off of like it making me feel like I was failing in every step, and like I was like the quality of my life was because I wasn't succeeding at what I was trying to do. And so, like you said, like, you know, that sometimes we need to hear that from Alan Arkin. Like, I felt like Olive for a second, you know, if that makes any sense. I felt like her, of like being told, you know, hyped up on my grandpa, just like, no, you're fucking trying, and that's okay, you know. And it was weird. Like, I think, like I said, just some of the recent stuff that's been happening this past week or so, I think just put me in a place mentally that I just haven't revisited in a while. And I think you know that I've been kind of going through a little bit.
Yeah,
and
of course.
So I think like, yeah, it was just kind of a lot for me, you know. But it was nice. It was a good kind of release, you know. But I think it was just weird. It was just a very strange thing where there was a segment where I was like, why am I reacting this strongly to it? Like, I have seen that scene like probably like at least 10 times on my own. And it's like, to me, I thought it was going to be, okay, cool, we're just getting through Little Miss Sunshine. It'll be a wholesome conversation. But god damn, it hit me like a fucking train. So yeah, I just want to share that.
I think that supports my claim, Chris, of movies are magical.
I know, right?
They are. Movies are some of the best shit ever, man. I went to go see like 2 movies the other day that were just documentaries, but I went to go see it in a theater, and I was like, oh, this is like the best. I just want to be in a movie theater all the time. Like,
you know,
yeah.
I've Remember we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but some listeners might not know. I fall asleep in movie theaters now. It's official, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of sucks. I love going to the theater, but goddamn, my body just hates it.
No, you know what I think it is, man? I don't think you fall asleep when it's a movie that is like with a packed crowd and everything. But I think lately you've been going to theaters where it's like a rep screening that maybe doesn't have that many people, you know? I think you specifically need like energy around you. Like you didn't fall asleep during Weapons, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know, so I wouldn't be too down on yourself on that. But I do think it's funny, though, I will say. Like, when you recently shared how you fell asleep during Two Towers, I did think that was really funny.
I got a full half-hour nap in Two Towers. It was dope. I felt great when I woke up, too. I just woke up to more Lord of the Rings.
It's like, I just want to, like, you know. So, in a way, you enjoyed your experience, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so, you want to talk about the beauty pageant?
They barely make it to the beauty pageant in time because, you know, they can't stop the car because the Volkswagen's all messed up with its stick shift and they're like making a turn and they have to go around a roundabout like 3 times to decide where to go. And then they end up just ripping through the parking lot like nothing. And then right when they're getting out of the car, the whole door comes off and Frank just kind of runs it off anyway. Like no one cares about the door because they're all so desperate to get there on time.
I mentioned this in our first podcast episode that we did on this. Steve Carell is brilliant in this because the door falls apart and then he runs, right? But look at his run. He is doing such a specific fucking run and it's so funny to me every time. Like he made a choice with that run.
Oh yeah, no, his run is iconic even, I would argue, because of even though the poster of the movie when they were pushing the car, he runs the same way. This is the special Frank run, you know? He's just such a dainty, delicate guy. But yeah, so they get to the pageant 4 minutes late. I'm kind of just going to yada through it a little bit. They get to the pageant 4 minutes late. They barely are allowed in because, you know, Richard ends up having to beg. And this lady, I forget the name of the actress, but she's incredible. She's in Donnie Darko as well and plays a similar type of woman. And I feel like she's just she just typecast as these types of like Karen ladies a lot. And just shouty to her real quick, like she's awesome in this movie. Her hair is just so like, it's like you just want to like just rip it off of her. Like you hate her so much.
And she's doing great physical acting when they're later all in like the police custody. And you see through the window, she's talking to the officers and she's like gesturing loudly with her hands. It's like really great physical acting.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You can just see her wanting to press charges behind the glass without hearing what she's saying. But anyway, so they let Olive in and all of these little kids are being spray tanned. Given just
uncomfortable to watch.
Disgusting. Yeah. The most like just vile thing you've ever seen. Right. You know, the caked in makeup and all this stuff.
I mean, I was watching between my fingers yesterday. I was like, oh, goddamn. Like, this is so uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, 100%. And you can just tell Olive sticks out like a sore thumb once they actually bring all the kids out. You know, she's just not one of these kids. Mm-hmm. And Dwayne and Richard end up going over and telling, what's the name of the mom, Cheryl?
Yeah, Toni Collette.
I forgot already. Toni Collette. It's just Toni Collette in my head. But they basically tell Cheryl they don't want Olive to go on because they're like, this place is like fucking nasty. She can't do this. And it is like a legit kind of dilemma you can imagine because on one hand, you can understand trying to protect her, you know, and on the other hand, you know, what Toni Collette says, you just got to let Olive be Olive. She works so hard.
But I
let her shoot her shot.
I totally understand that like brotherly instinct of just being like, no, we're not fucking, you're the mom, stop this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially when you're a teenage older brother, you don't have like power. So you're telling the parents to do something about it so we can protect my little sister.
Yeah, exactly. And, but they end up ultimately deciding to let her go on, you know, and, she ends up going on, and I mean, for those who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
Can we backtrack just a second, though? I want to talk. Yeah. I want to talk about like as everyone's doing their own thing. Greg Kinnear is like phenomenal in these last 20 minutes. Like he's really like he should have. I don't know, won an Oscar. Like they should have like really given it to him. I don't know who won that year, but like it's phenomenal. Specifically because as everyone's doing their own thing, Richard decides to sit in and he's seeing the show kind of unfold. And the camera's brilliantly cutting back to him every time a kid's performing, every time these adults are like loudly reacting to these kids wearing like very like upsetting, like skimpy clothes. It'll cut back to kind of Richard being like, huh, like him making those like faces. I just think that's...
And he looks more disgusted as it goes too.
That's why the payoff of him going with Dwayne to talk to the mom is so nice, because you're just like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. And yeah, dude. And even just like the host pageant guy with his like makeup and his little weird pompadour, and he's singing like, you know, America, America, whatever he's doing, and like, and Olive's just sitting there super uncomfortable.
He's very good. Okay, so Chris, what I want you to like really like quote Olive too. Like before she does the dance, like she goes up and like I want you to walk us through this. What happens?
So it's her turn. She's in, even like, I love the moment too, right immediately before that, when they give her a chance to walk out of this, where like, if you want to call it, you know, we can, like, no worries, you know, we'll take you home. It's fine. And she doesn't say anything. She just puts the hat on and walks out, and, you know, determined to do this. And so she goes out, and the host kind of goes up to her to make sure everything is like, is everything okay? And she takes the mic. I just want to dedicate this to my grandpa who showed me these moves. And he's like, oh, that's so sweet. And where's your grandpa now? In the trunk of our car. Then it's all quiet, and he's like, okay, take it away. And then sure enough, you know, Super Freak comes on. And probably like that song is just like, every time I hear this song now, forever since I saw this movie, I always think of this scene.
Well,
and I'm sure millions of people have experienced the same thing.
That happens sometimes where a song will now just suddenly belong to a movie, no matter what.
Yeah.
Raindrops Are Falling on My Head. That's Spider-Man 2's song now in my head.
Mm-hmm. What I love is, okay, so I read the script to this movie. Like I said, we studied it in screenwriting class and everything. And I remember reading the description for what her dance routine was, and it said something along the lines of like, Grandpa clearly visited a lot of strip clubs in the 80s and 90s and just ripped off their routines and showed them to her.
I mean, it is like the payoff of this climax is so phenomenal, dude. I can't describe to you how jealous I am that I didn't think of this idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like, as someone who like aspires to make a movie one day in his life, I'm like, I could never write something like this. This is amazing. Because I think what works so well about it, Chris, we've talked about this, is the fact that like, as she's like basically stripping, like she's ripping her clothes off and then kind of smacking her butt, everyone in the audience is so disgusted after they've all cheered and laughed at all these kids doing things that are, I think, more disgusting, just because these kids are like being treated like they're 21-year-old supermodels when they're 8. And
yeah,
Olive is just like owning it fully, what that this is, you know? And none of them can take it.
Oh yeah, I know. And especially like, I don't know the name of the main lady, the one that was in Donnie Darko as well. You know, when she's like running around, like having a whole meltdown fiasco, how she goes up to Richard and is like, what is your daughter doing? And he's looking and he's kind of clapping, because at this point he's standing up and kind of trying to encourage her. And he's like, she's kicking ass. That's what, or whatever.
Well, I love the moment where like parents are starting to walk out, and Frank, Steve Carell, is like, these fuckers, I'm gonna kill them.
yeah, he's like, those sons of bitches, I'll kill them.
Yeah.
He ends up standing up, clapping to the song, and
I wish I had
her.
your recall with quotes in movies. I'm so horrible with quotes in movies.
Oh, it's okay. That's what we're here for, you know, or that's what I'm here for, you know.
I know.
We balance each other for that stuff.
I know. It always upsets me, because I feel like every episode I misquote so much, and then you always are.
You capture the essence, though, you know.
Yeah.
When the host ends up going over and trying to kind of take her off stage, and then, you know, he's like, okay, come on. You know, then Richard ends up running up and then like tackling him. It's this whole thing. And then she ends up yelling like, get your daughter off the stage right now.
Oh no, but you forgot the line that I love right before he starts running off. He's like, don't touch her. Like he's like,
yeah, get your hands off, whatever he says. Yeah, let go of my daughter.
And then he's like, and then at first Olive is horrified, and then he's like, keep dancing, honey. And then Olive kind of like awkwardly keeps like moving and thrusting her elbows, and
I know.
And then Richard kind of like, I want to say this next part. Richard kind of like bobs his way into center stage behind his daughter. And I don't know, it might be the most cathartic moment ever in movies. He puts his hands on his head and then joins in on the dance and lets go of all self-importance and ego. Like he lets go of all of it and just accepts what this is, which is we're just fucking losers.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to break it down in the most simple terms, the pageant represents, to me, it represents societal expectations, of what achievement is. And we've talked about this already, but like, I think that whole dance sequence, what makes it so moving is it's basically like just a big fuck you to all of it.
I know.
You know what I mean? And they're having fun. And especially, I mean, it helps that all of them dance hilariously too. I mean, everyone, it's like it just embedded in me.
I mean, I think
Paul Dano's move.
I was literally going to say, I was like, I think you and I are in agreement that Paul Dano is like our favorite in that.
When he steps in, I mean, for YouTube viewers, you could see me, but he basically does this like kind of does this like weird thrust, and then they're doing like a ring around the rosy in circles, holding hands, and then he's in the middle jumping. It's so good. All of them start dancing together. Everyone, like no one else in the audience has any fucking clue what's happening, right? They're just watching the strangest routine they've ever seen in their lives. And eventually the song ends, and one dude in the crowd gets up and he's like, yeah, who's been established earlier.
Well, what's upsetting about that dude is that earlier Richard asked this denim-clad dude who doesn't feel like he belongs here, is your daughter participating? Or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And he just takes off his like earpiece or whatever he has on. He's like, is this your first time? And Richard kind of nods, and then he puts his earpiece back on. I was just like, he didn't answer the question if he has a kid in there. Like, we don't know. He could just be a fucking creep, which is, I think, what's implied.
Yeah, I what's funny is, like, maybe this is just naive, innocent Chris, but I always interpreted it as, like, his wife, like, or whatever, like, his daughter's in these, and he hates them and just, like, tunes it out every time. That's what I thought it was. Like, that's why he puts headphones, like, the first time, like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? Welcome to hell kind of thing. I thought it was that.
I
do see.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I do see also that possibility of if he's just a creep who just comes to these regularly and just watches them. That's very possible too. I think what gives it away from me where he could be not a creep is his excitement at the end of like, finally something interesting at the end of that.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I think your reasoning is probably more valid in my opinion. It makes more sense now that I think about it. But, movies are magical. They're left up into interpretation. And I noticed that I say magical. I completely flubbed magical at that last point. So I don't know what's happening. Podcasting is hard.
In the words of Red Letter Media, aren't movies magical?
I know. I think, like, as cynical as I am, sometimes watching movies like this, I'm just like, man, movies are magical. We didn't have any write-ins for this episode, but before we get to shouties, I just want to say that if you have thoughts about this movie, if this movie means a lot to you in a specific way and you want to share that, you can always comment down below.
And there's probably a lot of stuff that we missed, and we're going to turn them into shouties, but Altaf and I can talk about this movie for, like, hours and hours and hours. So anything that we haven't really fleshed out, feel free to drop a comment and we will talk about it with you in the comments.
But okay, Chris, you want to get to shouties?
Yeah, let's do it. You want me to go first?
Sorry, I'm a little confused. What the fuck are shouties? I don't even know what they are.
Oh yeah. So guys, this is the segment where Altaf and I give shout outs to moments in the movie that matter to us. Welcome to shouties.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
So we already mentioned Little Miss Sunshine title card. Yes, I want to mention this. Fuck a lot of women, Dwayne. A lot of women. And and then he goes into a truly abysmal conversation about like, your jailbait, their jailbait, it's perfect.
I know, dude.
And
awful.
I do like how he asked Dwayne, he's like, have you gotten any? And Dwayne just kind of shakes his head no, and he's like, what?
Yeah. He's like, no.
I love how Frank is enjoying it so much too, but yeah, that was one of my shouties.
Shouty to the car itself and all the problems that it hits, you know, the horn honking and then obviously them having to push it. And then, I mean, to me, I'm like I already said, like the idea of the car representing their kind of key to happiness, that kind of light at the end of the tunnel, the fact that it starts falling apart over the course of the movie is like kind of a great symbolic thing of like their worldview and their illusion of happiness slowly being shattered. But shouty to that, you know.
And most importantly, in order for them to move on, they have to work together. So it's perfect. Great movie car. We did 2 movies back to back now that have iconic movie cars, in my opinion. Harold and Maude and this. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
I mentioned Toni Collette's long death stare at the dad as she's walking back into the car, which is something that Toni Collette does masterfully. Obviously, we've all seen Hereditary. She does that throughout the entire movie in Hereditary. But
yeah.
Okay, Chris, this scene is probably meant for this segment of Shouties, but I mean, we just have to talk about it. Dean Norris and the porno magazines.
Oh, yeah. I knew. I was like, in my head, I was like, are you going to go first or am I going to go first for Dean Norris?
Yeah, we were Poe Dameron towards Kylo Ren. But yeah, man, it is, it's just a bang out scene. It's so funny. To this day, it makes me laugh. Also, it's also kind of just very poetic in the sense that both Bryan Cranston and Dean Norris are in this before Breaking Bad. It's kind of great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is weird because, yeah, and it takes place in Albuquerque, too.
Whoa, what a connection. I didn't put that part together. Yeah. But yeah, okay, so to set it up very quickly, they just got the dad out of the hospital, snuck him in, and now the car's honking and it won't stop. It's broken, and a cop follows him and they have to pull over. Richard, we quickly learn, is the worst person to lie to a cop. Like, he is horrible. He is immediately like, don't go there, don't open that. And you're like, he also at one point says it's illegal, which I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up.
I mean, it's not illegal.
Oh yeah, he says it's not illegal. Again, Chris,
which is what makes it funnier that when he ends up finding the dirty mags that flip out, it's not illegal. Like, that's what he thinks he's talking about.
Chris, you want to break down the shit that Dean Norris says?
Oh, well, it's the smile that gets it for me. So, like, yeah, when he first opens the trunk and you just hear him go like, God damn, or something like that. So you think like he sees the corpse, and then he ends up like walking. He's like, come over here, sir. And he walks over and he just sees him have this little smirk on his face. Yeah. Like, and he shows the magazine. He's like, I love this stuff, man. You know, God bless you. God bless you.
Oh, and then it cuts to Richard just being like, yeah, sweetness.
Yeah. He's like, don't worry, I'm not going to bust you.
Oh,
he kind of waves at.
Go ahead.
He kind of waves at Toni Collette a little bit. He's like, cute family. You got a little this on the side, a little this, a little that there.
Well, that's my favorite is when he waves to Toni Collette. And it's kind of just like, hey, man to man, you and me are in this together. It's okay.
So good. Like, dude, Dean Norris just like is hilarious in that moment.
Oh, and I mean, but then it's like, it reveals the one magazine that's Buns and Ammo. And he kind of just
yeah, that was Frank's.
And he kind of looks at Richard, and Greg Kinnear does this perfectly, but Greg Kinnear looks at Dean Norris and is like, no. Like, he's like, you don't like that one?
Also shouty to, speaking of which, Frank at the gas station buying the dirty mags too, and coming across his ex, and
what's his ex's name?
Having that. Oh, what is the name? What I forgot.
Larry Sugarman.
Sugarman, that's right. And just the horrible interaction they have, right? Where they're so happy, you know, like, oh, you know, he got the genius, so we got ourselves a little hotel to celebrate or whatever it was. How have you been? And he's like, I've been fine. Like, and he just straight up tried to kill himself a couple days ago, and then he sees the dirty magazines over his shoulder on the table, and he's like, well, it's great seeing you. They're trying so hard to just be nice to him.
I mean, there's something...
This is really sad to see.
Yeah, and there's something, like, really weird about, like, Frank ordering a blue slushie and then Larry Sugarman shows up in the most obnoxious blue slushy color shirt.
That's true, huh? Yeah, and his collar's all popped up.
Yeah.
Here, I'll do it right now for the YouTube viewers, you know? What do you think?
I think what's funny, yeah, you kind of got it. I think what's funny is that his collar's popped up only from the back.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
Okay. I have, oh yeah. Olive's outfits throughout the movie I love.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because it feels like what a little girl would dress herself up as. Like, that's where I'll like kind of make the distinction. My sister is very fashionable from an early age. She was always kind of looking, but when she was super young, I do remember that she was like, she put on a little too much makeup. Like she was just figuring it out. And Olive is kind of dressing so weirdly, like the boots that she has on. Like,
oh yeah, her headband and her red jersey. It's iconic, you know?
Any other shouties from you?
Yeah, shouty to the small moments, and some of this we talked about in the last podcast. If you want to hear, we probably covered stuff we didn't cover in this episode in the last podcast. If you want to hear more Little Miss Sunshine talk, but shouty to the small moment when after Dwayne had his breakdown, how right after she goes up and just lays on him, and he ends up snapping out of it immediately. It's an amazing moment. It's like just a truly just excellent scene. It's when they're going up the hill, and how she's kind of struggling in her cowboy boots to make it up, and then he just picks her up and then carries her up. It's like, again, that's such good like older brother stuff, you know?
I'm going to say this again. If you're an older brother to a younger sister, that moment will fucking break your heart in a good way.
Yeah.
Which is, I've had moments like that where my sister just kind of puts her arm around me and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, it's okay. Like,
yeah, life is okay now.
I live across the country from my family, you know? And, Chris, I've talked to you about this. I'll have very like anxious moments and I'll just talk to her on the phone and immediately forget about whatever I had going on in my life. So it's very special shit. And okay, my last shouty that I have written down at least. Well, first of all, I just want to say Larry Sugarman has the same energy in this movie as David Lindhagen has in Crazy Stupid Love.
yeah, 100%.
Which both movies have Steve Carell, funny enough, and both movies have Steve Carell kind of just being like David Lindhagen, Larry Sugarman, like these like specific names of people that have kind of fucked him. But my last shouty is, I think that moment where we see like Alan Arkin making the face with Olive of like what their routine is, I wish there was at least like some deleted scenes in the Blu-ray of Alan Arkin doing that routine for Olive.
Oh yeah, showing her how to do it.
Like smacking his butt, just like really showing him how to do it. Like I wish there was at least like a deleted scene out there. That would have been amazing.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, that's it. What a joyous podcast episode to do. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. We really appreciate it. Go check out our Patreon if you want to see me guess the movie Hands. Last but not least, stay nice, dudes.